in your couple of your chapters here, Mark of the Beast, the global conditioning, and chip implants. So what we just saw as it relates to some of the background of the ESG and others, the technologies coming. The goal, as you read earlier, Revelation 13, we're coming to the mark, global conditioning. What do you mean by global conditioning?
Well, the global conditioning has been going on for a long time, because ultimately what these guys are bringing in, they don't call it that, of course not, because people would freak out. It's the mark of the beast system. And it's basically micromanaging the planet, Revelation 13, not just with a one world government, a one world religion, but they're taking over the global economy, a one world economy, but they want to tie people into this global matrix, this system biometrically, and including your finances, your ability to buy and sell. Well, you know, they have all their phraseology to describe it. It's going to be great. It's going to build this utopia. Won't that be great and convenient? But it's what the Bible calls the mark of the beast system. That's hence the title that we have there on the resource. But the aspect is that what they want to do is they want to not only bring this in, most people don't realize they've been working on getting people used to the idea of being tracked like a rat, monitored every aspect with this big brother society that we're living in. The cell phone that we have is the biggest big brother device ever invented in the history of mankind, that not only tracks your exact location anywhere on the planet, but it also, and this is common knowledge now, it listens to your conversations.
Yeah.
It even videotapes you when you're not watching, right? And things of that nature. Even some of their technology in our homes that we brought into our homes, like Alexa, that's on tape, that they're recording your conversations and they're sharing them in the back end. But not only that, even like things like the Roomba robot and stuff that's taking pictures and things, you know, all this weird stuff is like, what's going on? You know, so it's all tied together, and we've been under the guise of convenience, bringing all this big brother technology into our homes. It's not just in the cities when we walk around. Every restaurant, every gas station, there's a camera everywhere, on street lights, street corners, but it's now in our homes, so it's everywhere. It's ubiquitous, and that's what they want, right? They call them smart cities, and basically supplant the word smart with big brother, and that's what they've created. But my point is, that's bad enough. Now they want to go the next step, and they want us, like the Bible says, it's going to be biometrics, which means you're going to be tied into this electronic system with a body part. So what biometrics mean, right? The Bible calls it mark of the beast. And the Bible calls it out, the hand or the forehead. And so these guys have been conditioning for years, and we bring this out, even before this crisis that they created to get the ball rolling to make their 2030 date, to bring this system in. And they want everybody on the planet microchipped. I've got Klaus on tape in 2016. He was doing an interview in the UK, and he freely admitted that just as, and this was 2016, just as we have been used to allowing microchips into the products that we buy, the clothing, he forewarned, even back then, we will all have chips. He really loves the brain chip. And he said the chip will have a chip in our head and stuff of that nature. And that was very alarming in 2016. 2017, the very next year, I got him, share the tape, we transcribe it in the book. He is at the World Economic Forum, and he is interviewing Sergey Brin. Sergey Brin is the co-founder, along with Larry Page, of Google. Google is developing one of the biggest AIs, and has for years, which I think is being used to run the back end of this system that their Great Reset's building, the Big Brother system and financial system. Because you can't hire enough people, you need something superhuman. That's where AI comes in. That's why Klaus is big on AI. It's all been planned. Anyway, so he's interviewing Sergey Brin on stage, and I kid you not, it's on tape, man. It's just like, man, you got to be kidding me. So he fills in the blank what he meant in 2016, that just like we got used to having microchips in our clothes, we're going to have them in our brain. Now he's having this discussion with Sergey Brin, and he says, yeah, and we're all going to get chips, and he points to the head again, these brain chips, and then he swings his arm to the audience there, and he says, and for instance, it will allow us to do things like, we will know instantly how you liked or didn't like the discussion that we're having right here, right now. So it's thought control and things of that nature. But in order for that to happen, it's not just the buying and selling aspect of being microchipped and biometrically tied into the system. They want to go even deeper. And they want to not just know and control your buying and selling that Revelation mentions. They want to know your exact location. But here's the big thing people don't get. They want to know your thoughts. And this is not a conspiracy theory. This is their own words. This is what they want to bring. You're thinking the technology's not here. I got a expert admitting in the industry, who, by the way, he thinks it's a good thing, that what is coming with these brain chips, right? And these brain chips not only are pitched as, well, they'll help people who are in a paralysis state and they'll regain their usage of their limbs back, or it'll be convenient if that's not you, but you'll be able to, with your thoughts, you'll be able to send an email or respond to a phone call. You look at the younger generations, they'll think that's cool if I just get the brain chip. The other aspect is your thoughts. They will, and then they're pitching like, well, this would be great for the soldiers who suffer and other people who suffer from PTSD, because we can go in and we will isolate that thought that you keep thinking that's giving you PTSD, and we'll delete it. And so they're pitching it as a good, healthy thing, right? Or people with depression. Boy, that's everywhere now.
Isn't it?
Right?
Yeah.
And so we'll go in and delete all those depressing thoughts, and you won't be depressed anymore. But wait a second. What's that going to allow them to do? That means they got access, as crazy as this sounds, they got access to your thought life.
That rebellious thought against the government.
Right.
We don't like that. Or
exactly. So that means, and they admit that they can not only delete, they can insert. The military is big on brain chips, including our own country. This is from DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. But they're big on brain chips because they're looking at it from a soldier's perspective, that we can basically create a remote control soldier. That's bad enough. But they said, well, and for instance, it's like the Matrix movie. The guy put the jack in the back of his head, and then he wakes up, and all of a sudden he says, I know Kung Fu.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what the military,
that training model in there.
Right. That's where the military is, or the military is saying that, see, this will allow us to download instructions immediately on the battlefield for anybody and all that
And
stuff.
to remove fear. Imagine deleting fear from a soldier.
Which, by the way, is a technique that Hitler used at the end of World War II. And he jacked his soldiers up with so much drugs that they were just absolute fiends. That's a whole other aspect. But even that trick is nothing new. But anyway, so they're going to have access to insert, delete, and monitor your thoughts with that. Now, here's what's crazy. That's bad enough. In another program, we read through this Revelation 13. And what did it say there? At some point, not just the mark system of one world economy, cash society, the biometric system, the mark of the beast in the right hand, the forehead. But it says that they're going to have this image of this beast, right, of the Antichrist. And the order's going to go out globally. You need to worship the beast. And it said all who didn't will what? Will be killed. Well, how are they going to know if somebody said, yeah, I'm going to worship the beast, or I'm going to worship the beast on a global basis, and then know where they're at to be killed? Go back to this aspect. And these guys know your thoughts. They're going to know instantly. It's crazy as it sounds like, but this is part of their great reset that they think is going to be great for the planet. This utopia is building. And that's the important thing that people need to realize. They've been conditioning us. Right now, 51% of people in the UK say, yep, chip me, man. I want to be tied into the system. I want a brain chip. I want a hand chip.
So let's talk about that for a minute, even more, because the key here, this conditioning, and when I look at, you said it earlier, is like we'll talk about finances, economics in the next segment, but the conditioning aspect of, let's say you have a 20-year-old, they were born with a screen in their face, and now they have a smartphone, and you have them from the beginning, maybe they have virtual reality, video games, whatever the thing is. They are more than happy I was doing a podcast yesterday about this too, that these people these kids, I feel bad for them. They're born in a situation where they see, maybe maybe they're unpopular, and what would distinguish them? Well, they're raised on Marvel. All you got to do is a little bit of genetics. You know, would you get bit by a poisoned radioactive spider in order to get spidey senses? How many of them would say yes? Absolutely would. Right. So they're conditioned not only by having the phone there with social media, all the woke, all the ideology, but they also are influenced and conditioned by the movies, and they're used to being tracked. I said, well, I got nothing. What do I care? What do I care if they track? So, and then as you mentioned, why not chip me? I have it saved me from carrying my phone. Yeah,
exactly. Well, again, that's what we bring out. We go further back, even before the planned crisis that Klaus admits is the trigger to get all this into play. But again, by his own words, this is what he wants to bring to the planet. This is part of the package of the so-called Great Reset. But we go back and expose how this has been promoted in schools, secular schools. This has been promoted in Hollywood, in the media, this chipping. I mean, don't you want to, for soldiers, it's, well, they get lost on the battlefield.
Exactly. Or your kids, right?
Or your kids. And I've actually got people on tape, and it's been transcribed for the book. They're pitching to parents, right? I mean, hey, we've got used to our pets being chipped. And if we lose Fido or Fifi, why not Frankie or Susie?
Yeah.
Right?
Because fear, right?
Then, of course,
fear.
Right, exactly. Then they show parents. Say, oh, I think it's great.
Yep.
You know, I want
my gosh,
the kidnappings. You've heard about this, and child abduction and sex trafficking, and it's all true, and that's horrible.
It's true.
But they get people all afraid.
They're leveraging that fear.
And then, well, see, the solution is you got to get chipped.
Yeah.
Right.
That would solve it. It would
right?
answer
you
all
got people in Hollywood, news broadcasting is great. There's certain companies. We bring out one company, and where their employees had to get chipped in order to not just open up the doors and for security purposes, but then it's like, oh, because these chips also not just control your proximity, they store and receive information like your medical information, all this stuff, but they also make financial transactions. Go figure.
The video that I watched it, and he went up to the door. She went up to try to open the refrigerator, and he goes, "No, here, let me show you."
Exactly.
And then the door opens, and he got his snack,
you make
his
your
lunch.
purchases. Yeah, exactly. So the conditioning's been here for a long time, right? Because I think that's one of the hardest sells. Is who wants to get microchip. Yeah. But if you look at the statistics, and you mentioned basically, not to pick on the millennials all the time, but millennials on down who have been raised on nothing but this technology, it's the logical next step for them. And you and I are just old fuddy-duddies.
Exactly.
Like, you guys don't realize how awesome it's going to be. And Klaus, that's how he pitches it. He says, and I quote, that just as we've gotten used to carry our cell phones on the outside of us, they will now integrate and be on the inside of us. And again, this is part of what he says, not only talking about brain chips and the Great Reset and what's coming, he says this phrase all the time in his interviews, the fourth industrial revolution that is coming, which is basically the Fourth Reich. He said it will not change what you do. It will change who you are.
Yeah.
There will be an integration between your biological identity and all this technology, and you'll all be into basically what I call a Borg existence.
Yeah. And the kids will love it. I mean, I think about the generation coming up, and I mean, maybe there's a timing factor, but all these structures are being put into place. And so I feel for those that are, like I said, under 30, that as an unbeliever who has no framework, I mean, these aren't, most of them, as we know in the church, we lose the teens, we lose the kids. Once they go to college and come back, most, 80, 90% of them are gone out of the church. They don't want to come back. But while they're there, they're being conditioned all these other things, these mindsets, social media. And you're like, they really have they're so blind because they don't come back to scripture. Mm-hmm. They've abandoned that worldview. They don't have a chance to be, Jesus, it's a deception. That's the biggest thing.